KwaZulu-Natal Premier Sihle Zikalala has urged residents in flood-prone areas to be cautious as severe weather is expected this weekend. Zikalala was speaking at a media briefing updating the province about recovery efforts after the April floods. For more, we're joined by Karinda Jagmohan. Karinda, very good afternoon. What are some of the key highlights from the Premier's speech this morning, if you will?
Indeed, while a number of statistics being given today from the KZN Premier, I'll just give you some of the numbers first. Just a confirmed figure, 448 people having passed away following the April floods. Because of the floods, we now know that 88 people are missing and 6,895 people are homeless. Going forward, we understand there are now 91 shelters housing just over 7,200 people. And in the midst of this, while KZN is trying to recover and our infrastructure damage is amounting to more than 25 billion rand, we've just got an alert from the Karinda department in KZN about severe weather for this weekend from Thursday. Even from this weekend, over the weekend, we expect severe weather, thunderstorms, especially in the inland parts of KwaZulu-Natal. The Premier urging people who are living in low-lying areas, flood-prone areas, to be cautious, especially as he says the ground could still be wet following the torrential rain that KZN saw. Remember, over 300 millimeters of rain in 24 hours in eThekwini. The April floods amounted to about a third of a year's worth of rain in just one night. Take a listen to what the Premier had to say just moments ago.
With regard to the forecast on weather for this coming weekend, the provincial government has received a severe weather warning notice from the South African Weather Services for the coming weekend. We are advised that if KwaZulu-Natal receive an additional 20 milliliters of rain, there is a potential of flooding as the ground may still be saturated following the recent heavy rains. We have been advised to expect snowfall and freezing temperatures. The EXCO will, through the Department of Culture and the MEC Siphohlomuga, put all our disaster team on full alert. We urge our fellow citizens to be aware, especially those who may be in flood-prone areas.
Indeed, so that is the KZN Premier speaking about the weather warnings for this weekend. But going forward, he says we also do need to improve our weather warning system. While at the moment our warning systems are giving us general warnings for severe storms across regions of KwaZulu-Natal, he says that we can use our technology, advance our technology to have more specific warnings so that even government entities, municipalities can speak directly to councillors and urge certain communities to evacuate their homes if need be. Now, also just going forward about the temporary residential units, we understand that there are over 1,100 units that are going to be built already. He says that 77 of these temporary housing units are being constructed in areas like Molweni, KwaMakuta and Inanda. But going forward, of course, he says that residents who are looking for assistance to rebuild need to go through a certain process. And then, of course, some information about that now controversial 1 billion rand expected from National Treasury. He says that this money will come in different forms of support. He says that an application has already been submitted going forward, and this is based on a budget in accordance to the damages and what needs to be repaired. But also some information. I did ask him about his thoughts regarding the assistance from the National Disaster Management Unit over the past month. He says that the response has been well coordinated, but going forward, there needs to be an improvement in terms of government systems. It needs to be more speedy and ensure that balances and checks can be done in a much more efficient manner, so that when there is a natural disaster like the one we saw in April, which is described as the worst that we've seen in this province, he says that then at least government entities can assist the people in a much quicker manner. So that's the state of affairs here in KwaZulu-Natal a month later. And of course, going forward, we're going to see what happens this weekend as that severe weather warning for KwaZulu-Natal has been issued.
Karinda, I'd certainly like to pick your brain where haste or speediness is concerned. And I'm glad that the Premier talked about speedy execution of what's going on. We know that 77 houses are currently complete. Is this quick enough, or what sort of reaction are you getting on the ground if you've had a chance, certainly, to speak to people to establish if a month after all that's transpired, only 77 houses are complete?
At least for people living in community shelters, that's not quick enough. Last week we went to one community shelter in Coffee Farm near Pinetown, where residents had been living there for a month. They say that they're looking now to leave these community shelters. It's really a hall that they're living in with thin mattresses that they're sleeping on in crowded rooms. And of course, these are over 50 residents that are sharing this hall to live in. And for especially the women there, they say it's not a dignified manner. Many residents in these shelters are depending on, they say, donations for food. Although here the Premier says that parcels are being handed out. But when we went to especially the hall in Coffee Farm near Kwandengezi, Pinetown, the residents there told us, the women there told us that they're waiting on Good Samaritans to assist them. So really not fast enough. Now remember, these temporary residential units are going to house dozens of people at a time. The Premier says it's going to be quality units being built, but of course media were yet to lay our eyes on them to see these units that are being built, but definitely over a month for many residents living without a home. Those have been left homeless, those who are still even struggling to find their loved ones. 88 people remain missing. They say that the response is just not quick enough, and especially for those who, for example, saw their houses being washed away by torrential rain, they're worried about what processes they can follow going forward to start rebuilding. Remember, residents say they can't live in community halls for an extended period of time because many, of course, need to be able to access routes to work. They need to be able to essentially pick up the pieces of their life. So they're looking for more urgent forms of intervention and, of course, are urging now at least for more funding to try and move forward.
And finally, Karinda, the Premier reiterated the issue of that weather warning coming up this weekend, where certainly a huge amount of cold and possible snow from what I understand. Did he at all talk about how he's going to, certainly the government of KZN is going to assist those individuals that are living in those shelters come this weekend's weather, because it obviously is going to be an issue?
Not direct information about assistance with regards to the severe weather storms expected this weekend. What he did say was that government entities are supplying hygiene packs, food packs to various communities, but there's also been issues on the ground with regards to how this is being handled. He spoke about this as well, but one major concern being made here is a call for residents to who are living in low-lying areas and flood-prone areas to evacuate those areas as soon as possible, to head to the shelters around you, including the community halls, to find shelter. One concern here it's with regards to those who still have houses that have been partially destroyed, with regards to how they're going to manage amid expected imminent torrential rain. But also going forward, some cause for concern here is about how to coordinate evacuation processes as well. And the Premier did touch on the fact that our weather warning systems in KwaZulu-Natal need to be improved, especially as we are seeing more natural disasters coming forward. Remember, in 2019 we saw similar floods in April 2019, but of course here this particular flood taking more than 400 lives, 88 people still missing, and he's describing it as one of the worst natural disasters the country has ever seen. So, of course, going forward, also another reminder to people who are using specific forms of heating amid this expected cold weather, those who are using gas heating as well, to be mindful about how you are using those components just to ensure that fires do not spread. Just over this weekend, we saw a tragic fire in Clara State where over 200 informal settlements were burnt down. So a reminder there to be safe amid the expected torrential rain.
Our reporter Karinda Jagmohan coming to us from the KZN on the back of Premier Sihle Zikalala's address following those devastating floods in KZN almost a month ago.